I know you've answered this question several times in the last few weeks, but you go through and crunch some offensive numbers in the 4-game winning streak. They're quite a bit better than they were before those 4 games. And so, again, what's the difference?
Well, I mean, I think just maturity of our players. Younger guys are starting to, you know, mature. Guys that have been in the program for 1 year are starting to understand, you know, what we're trying to do. I think we're, at this point, we're beyond just running offense. We are now learning how to play offense within the structure, because all offense is it's not the play that scores. It's plays put you in position to use your talents. And sometimes early on with a young team or a team that doesn't have a lot of returning guys, they're more worried about running the action than they are about playing basketball. And now we're starting to play basketball.
A little bit about how to take advantage of what the offense gives them.
Yeah, what the offense gives them. It just puts them in situations they can take advantage of what they can do, hopefully. And you know, obviously Troy's been stepping up a little bit, and you know, if we can if that Gary Clark shows up every time, like last night, you know.
It seems like Jermaine's made a big difference.
And Jermaine too.
10 points a game
yeah. And you know, Jermaine's obviously does what he's playing well within himself. He's making open shots. He gets some hustle baskets on the offensive glass, and he's smart and knows when to cut. You know, he's gotten just about every game he's got a basket off of making a cut when they were doubling somebody or not paying attention. And
that's stuff that comes with experience.
That comes with experience.
Coach, what's the balance with Troy? Because you want to see that kind of emotion out of a guy like that. You want to see him lead the team, but where is that balance for him as far as getting the 2 technicals last night?
Well, you know, again, you don't want to temper a kid's enthusiasm in that. He has to learn how to show it. You know, instead of showing it to an opponent, he needs to show it to the crowd. He needs to show it to and he doesn't need to be a hot dog. He doesn't need to be on every play. But there's nothing wrong with, hey, when you make a great play, pumping your fists, you know, that kind of stuff. But you can't get caught up in going back at an opponent. And you know, a little bit of it I think was overblown. It was a tight, hard-fought game, and once he did, you know, once he showed emotion to another player a couple times, then naturally the officials are going to be looking for you. And you know, he walked over into their huddle one time, and again, according to Troy, all he was saying, hey, there's blood on the floor. And well, the official misconstrued that as he was trying to get in the middle of their huddle. But you know, and I would too if I was an official. I would think the same thing after how he, you know. But you know, you just got to strike the balance of that. But you don't want. I mean, I'd much rather have to dial them back than dial them up. You know, when guys don't have any life and they have no emotion in the game, that you're not going to have a very good team. It's easier to, you know, it's much better to dial them back and teach them how to channel it the right way.
What are you learning more about the guys that make this team go? Because last night it felt like when Gary and Troy are playing that well, this team really does go to another level.
Well, I mean, they're 2 of our better players. You know, you got to have 2 of your two of your most talented guys doing what they can do. Then that helps everybody else. You know, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think you've seen us at our best yet offensively, and I don't think you've seen us at our best yet defensively. I mean, we watched that film, and we were pretty darn good defensively the last 2 games. But we know after watching the film of both those games, there are things we can be a lot better in, which is, you know, ominous for opponents to some degree. But if that's true, now can we get there? That's the question. Can we maintain where we're at every game and even get a little better at it? And then on the offensive end, you know, I don't think you've seen our best basketball yet. We still make a lot of mistakes. We had 15 turnovers again last night, which was way too many. Now, you know, we turned them over 17 times, so you know it negated itself a little bit. But you know, again, we can get better offensively, but we're coming. I mean, we're understanding better. We're starting to come. So
you mentioned it was not long after the game last night that you said, hey, let's look ahead to East Carolina. Is that standard procedure, or do you have to emphasize that more coming off a quote big win like that?
Well, I think at this point in the season, if you want to try to be in the conference race, which we're trying to be, you've got to enjoy the win, you got to enjoy the moment, and then you got to be able to let it go. Because if you don't, and you get drunk on a win, or you hang on to that win too long, then you set yourself up, especially when you're going on the road. You're going down, and I know East Carolina had a big crowd for Tulsa, and North Carolina are great basketball fans down there, and they're going to come. I would think they're going to have a packed house for us, and they almost upset Tulsa, so we got to be ready to play, and you just can't at this point in the season, you can't hang on to a win too long, just like you can't hang on to a loss too long. You got to let it go. You got to let it go and move to the next thing, and that's what we have to do quickly.
You're always looking and trying to find intangibles in recruiting, but you never know how that's going to play out until they get to campus. Did you have any idea Gary was going to be as mature as he's shown through that process, or was it just something that when he got here he adapted quickly? Well,
how we recruited him, and that I told him in the beginning, hey, you're talented enough, but you don't play hard enough. The fact that he was able to accept that, and embrace it, I mean, it's kind of why we got him. That takes a mature thinking kid to realize, say, you know what, he's right. Most kids, a lot of kids, or I would say most kids, would have said, hey, Coach, I got all these other guys tell me how great I am. You're going to sit there telling me that, I got to play a heck of a lot harder, and all those kind of things, and because I was honest with him. And that was a forbearing that this guy was a little bit different. And he's just so coachable, man. He just, whatever you tell that kid, he's trying to do. And he's got a great basketball intellect as well. He understands concepts and things at a little higher plane maybe than other people do, his age particularly. Usually that comes how he thinks, usually when you're a junior and senior, he thinks that way. And his whole thing has been just getting him to where he could play that hard that long. He embraced the fact that he had to play really hard, but play that long, because it's, at this level it's every minute. In high school, you don't have to play that way every minute when you're talented.
Is there anything he's done that's taken you by surprise?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, I knew his abilities and that. I thought he was pretty good. He hit the wall, I think, probably about the UConn game, the first UConn game. He hit the wall a little bit. And you worry with freshmen, sometimes they don't ever recover from that. They kind of, they maybe play great and then they hit the wall and they kind of just make it through the season. And I think he's taken another little jump here lately, and that's encouraging. And we got to keep him going.
Where do you think he is offensively in terms of learning how to be more aggressive, how to maybe find more shots and look to score a little bit more?
Well, after the shoot around yesterday, I walked over to him. He was shooting free throws, and I just said, "Hey, Gary, man, you're a player. You got to play like a player. I gave him an example when you do a ball screen and you got that short little row in the open area and you catch it. You can't be thinking, where am I going to pass the ball? You got to be thinking, how am I going to get this ball in the basket? I said, you catch that ball at the elbow, you got to be thinking, can I attack my guy, as opposed to just what's the next part of the play. And last night he played more like that.
You threw some pretty creative defensive schemes at UConn last night. You were switching up the zone a little bit. What sorts of things did you see on their tape to provoke you to do that?
Well, the first game, the way we played them was, it just ended up chasing them around, being bad man to man. And this time we stayed to our 2-3 zone much more, and we had some ways we were playing it, but some different things we were doing out of it. But the game plan, don't let Boatwright in the paint. Don't let them in the paint. Don't let him and 44 the kid from Purvis in the paint. And yeah, they make some threes, but they're not going to beat us from the three-point line. The biggest stat of the game last night, as I said in the press conference, was he had 2 assists. The first game he had 8 assists because he gets baskets, you know, he gets easy baskets for everybody when he gets in that lane. And you keep him out of that lane, that makes them all have to work a lot harder to make baskets and get baskets. And that was the biggest thing last night. Now, if we'd have guarded him a little bit better at the end of the game, it wouldn't have been even as close as it was. But we left him a couple times and we shouldn't have left him.